our human relations chapter on stress and managing stress levels. We are starting out with a quote. When I look back on all these worries, I remember the story of the old man who said on his deathbed that he had had a lot of trouble in his life, most of which had never happened. Winston Churchill. The topic for this video is to be able to define stress and the types of stress that can impact how we relate to other people. And because we are in a human relations course, it is important to think about how stress impacts our relationship with other people. Stress, our communication, relationships, interactions with others. So stress is the non-specific response to the body to a demand for a change. The non-specific response of the body to a demand for a change. So you have a reaction inside of your body because you have too many stressors that are stressing you out. So a stressor is something that causes you to feel stress in your body. It is very individual in that something that is stressful for you might not be stressful for me. So I might find it stressful to go out and spend a lot of time around people in a mall. And you might find that joyful. So stress is very individual and it varies from person to person. When we experience too much stress, we can become irritable. And so we want to make sure that we manage stress as much as possible. There are 4 types of stress on this slide: acute, episodic acute, chronic, and eustress. So acute stress is the first type of stress. This is the most common. It happens to everyone every once in a while. You have a busy day, you're running around, you're going to work, you have classes, you need to do homework, dishes, laundry, walk the dog, and then see your friends. So it comes from the demands that we have in our lives, our pressures that are put on us, and possibly our future demands when we're thinking about what's upcoming. Very common. Everyone experiences this sometimes. Episodic acute stress is the second type of stress, which can be a more serious form of stress, because this is something that we are now starting to feel daily. So we are daily feeling the impact of these demands and these pressures, and we rarely get relief from that. So this is episodic acute. Chronic stress is even more harmful. It is more impactful because now we almost never get relief. This is the long-term type of stress where we don't even see an opening. We don't even see a future without the demands and the pressures. And so this is the type of stress that happens month after month, year after year. And this chronic type of stress can originate or come from PTSD as well, post-traumatic stress disorder. Then the last type of stress is called eustress. And this is actually a positive stress. And this is something when we're feeling a little bit of jitter, a little bit of nervousness, because we need to perform, we need to give a presentation. So there's something is going on that is causing us to feel stress in a positive sense. And we need this to perform at our best. And so that's eustress. So this original stress research was done by Hans, and I'm pronouncing that in Swedish. I believe it's a German name originally, H-A-N-S, Hans. Selye is his last name, S-E-L-Y-E, Selye. And he did experiments on rats, and he would give them different challenging environments with noises or cold temperatures or lightning changes. And this would cause the rats eventually physical problems, and he attributed these physical problems to the stress, the constant chronic stress that these rats felt. This was in the 30s. And so today, when we look at the human function curve about how we function at work with stress levels, this curve comes from a gentleman named Peter Nixon. And this one looks at arousal and pits it towards performance. So your arousal, that will be just an alert state. You're awake, you're reacting to things in your environment, you are aroused. And we see on the curve that different levels of arousal gives us different levels of performance. And so we want to have some optimum balance of stress. We don't want to be void of stress because that will cause us to be too bored. And that's at the very left of the curve here, the drone zone, right? Life is so unchallenging that you literally are just bored and you're not performing. And then as you get a little bit more pressures and demands, you start to have performance improvements, you have healthy tension, and you end up in the C zone, which is your creative calm zone. And this is your optimal sort of eustress zone where you want to be. So you have arousal here, you have higher levels of performance, and you are actually happy while contributing. However, if we stay in this zone for too long, and I'm just going to pick a different pen color to illustrate that. So if we stay in this zone too long, right? So you spend time here and you tip over into fatigue zone, which happens if you're too aroused for too long. You're reacting too much. Your body is reacting too often to the pressures and the demand. And all of a sudden, you're now in your fatigue zone. And we are starting a downward slope then with exhaustion, which can eventually actually lead to breakdown and burnout. And this is where you have actual physical ill health. So you will actually have starting to have heart problems, etc., sleep insomnia, etc. And so we want to stay in this optimal zone and we want to manage it so that we don't become sick. So our introduction here to this chapter tells us that stress means different things to different people in summary here. Stress and the types of things that cause stress vary from person to person. Today, we generally say that stress is the body's way of responding to a demand. Acute stress is the stress that we experience on a day-to-day basis. This is the stress of getting our to-do list done or the stresses of unplanned setbacks, which do happen to everyone. When a person rarely gets relief from stress, we call this episodic acute stress, which is more serious than just acute stress. But chronic stress is even more troublesome. This is the long-term stress where we have little hope for relief. This is a long-term situation, month after month, year after year, where we are trying to find a solution that just is out the window. We don't even try to find a solution anymore. Not all stress is bad. Some stress can be helpful to us. It helps us perform at a higher level and it challenges us. And we call this eustress, eustress. That's it for part 1 of our Human Relations Managing Stress chapter. See you soon. Bye.